So it really sucks how the Kumite ended and how the relationship between Andy, Failure, and Tonka ended. But, I think there was a few reasons why this a whole thing took place. And obviously, first of all, it had to do with the flaggers and people flagging Tonka's channel, which then forced him to go on Failure's channel. And then once he was on Failure's channel, Failure was now given a little bit more power, right? Because he was out hosting the show. So that was just one more person adding their opinion into a show that was originally Tonka's. And then over time, his channel got flagged. So then he got moved over to Andy's channel. And then that's another person who eventually is somebody who wants to take the channel in this direction, who wants to talk about this, and who wants to do this and that. Now, it was nice of them to bring him onto their channel and to host his show, but because they took an active role and didn't just kind of remain guests, this is ultimately what created a lot of the tensions, I think, and what ultimately broke up the show. Because there wasn't, in these types of things, pretty much what happened between him and JF, there wasn't a set hierarchy set in, the business, because this is pretty much what it is. So, you have three partners, and they all want to take the show in a different direction. And added to that, Tonka was the original creator. So, like, Andy should understand to some extent how Tonka should feel, because it's kind of like, JF coming on his show wanting to talk about this and talk about this, and now Andy feels like he's losing control to his show, this, and that, right? So I think that is probably how Tonka felt to some extent. I could kind of see that over time. Why he was losing more interest is because of that, and another reason why is because another reason why these relationships between these guys get all fucked up is because they're monetizing each other's drama, right? Like the whole thing with JF, and why JF was getting all butthurt and mad was because Andy and all these other people and that kept wanting to talk about his court cases, kept wanting to bring people on to talk about him being a rapist and this, and that. So obviously, JF is going to get a little pissed off about that. And then, so then it creates more tension. And then Andy himself on the stream that I was watching just the other day, where it's like a 7-hour fucking stream, I watched part of it, but he was saying how he felt mad at Tonka and Failure because they were monetizing his drama, and the whole thing when they brought Paul's ego on, how he didn't really want to talk about it, and he was kind of mad at them about this, and he was mad about JF about the same thing, where he's like, oh, well, you're bringing people on to diss at me, and then whenever we diss at you and bring people on to diss you, you block them and you kick them off. And this is the same argument that they were saying towards Tonka. It's like, whenever you want to do drama and stuff about me, I'm the punching bag, I'm this, and that. But then whenever it's about you, then you want to block them, you don't want to talk about them. So, it's the same fucking thing that was pretty much happening. But, so it's like they should not be monetizing each other's drama. And that is what is leading to a lot of this shit, right? Like, Tonka did not want to talk about the whole wrestling thing, his identity, the whole Zoom thing, whatnot. And but Andy and whoever else were both like, well, we want to talk about it, because now they have more control over the show. They can talk about it. So, why would you expect him to want to stick around where the show that he essentially created is now no longer his? So it's understandable why I think that Tonka is reacting some of the ways that he's reacting now. Obviously, he's not doing it correctly. Like, I think he probably just doesn't know how to express his emotions correctly, and talk to Andy and all this stuff. So now he's making it about some other issue, why he's really leaving the show. But in reality, I think it's because Andy and Failure now have more control, and he's just like, fuck it, what's the point? I don't want to be a part of this anymore. So I think that is initially why he is leaving. And it's it's unfortunate. I don't. None of these guys are doing this stuff per se on purpose. Andy isn't coming in there and trying to take control of the show on purpose. Neither is Failure. That's just the dynamics of what happens when you run a show together. That's why it's always good to have a clear hierarchy. Who is the boss? Who is making decisions? Who is the employee? And who goes along with who? The show right now with Andy and Jay Dyer, it's going to be more stable at the very least, because there is that clear hierarchy. The same thing with JF and his co-host. It's going to be more stable because there's that clear hierarchy. So this is what they need to focus on, or this is what they need to do if they do run a show, because this is just like having roommates or having your friends, right? You have your friends come over and it's fun, you hang out, you talk, and you love having your friends over, but then they go home because that's what's good about when you just have friends, right? Then they get to go home and you don't get to see them. But if they're your roommates now and they're your friends, over time you're gonna be like, fuck, man, I don't really like you anymore, because now they have control over things in your life and they're making decisions that are impacting your life. So you're like, fuck you, man, like I don't want to do this. And you realize that people are different, and especially when it's a working thing like this too. Yeah, people are different, they want to do different things. Tonka didn't want to do call-in shows, maybe just because he's just stubborn and whatever. But if it was his show initially, so I think he should have the right to be kind of stubborn and be like, no, if my fans don't like the direction of the show, they don't have to watch it. And I can understand how he probably feels like Andy and Failure coming in and kind of pestering him and being like, hey man, we should do this, we should do this, we should do that. But don't get me wrong, Tonka did bad shit too, and he's not good at communicating. I think he apparently lied or whatever, but I'm hesitant to say that stuff because a lot of the time it's perceptions. People, they perceive each other to lie, whereas maybe Tonka, like he said in a DM or a chat or something, he felt like Failure and Andy had a stream with Zoom on purpose to behind his back to get him or something like that, whereas maybe that was just his perception. He wasn't lying, but maybe he thought he saw it that way. So it's not a lie. It's just mixed up perception. And Andy, saying it's a lie or saying this or that, that's not him lying. That's just his perception. So, I think it's shitty. These guys, they didn't handle this thing like adults. They, they should have looked like, if they're like living off of YouTube and they need to make money to survive, then yeah, it's you shouldn't handle these situations like they're doing. Like I said, stop monetizing each other's drama. And I think they're probably doing this maybe subconsciously to some extent. I don't think they're doing it like to figure, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it for money and I don't give a shit about him. But they're probably like, hey, this is drama, I don't have any content right now, there's nothing really going on, let's put this on our channel and talk about it. But that's not a good business decision, because sure, maybe you'll make a few $500, $1,000 in super chats, but then now your show is destroyed. And now all the super chat money that you would have made in the long term is now completely squandered because you decided to monetize this short-term drama, right? So it sucks what happened. Maybe one day these people, they can work out their differences or something, but in the meantime they just need to think of these things more like a business and set a good hierarchy, right? But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.